Live.
Did it.
We did it again.
Yes, we're here. How you doing,
bro? Welcome everybody. That's Matt Zabruski. I'm Adam Zabruski. Agile Game Changers, Hospiamo. You know, there's too many to count, bro. This is actually our final episode of the year.
Oh yeah.
Right? And episode number 33. We got started on Mom's birthday on May 25th and said let's try to do 10 of these, and we've done 33 of them. So we're going to keep on going into next year. And you've got a lot going on. I've got a lot going on. And so I'm totally psyched that we continue this journey. And what has turned into a documentation of our journey, right?
Yes.
Which I think is awesome. I think more people and more companies should think about doing this. And you know that I do offer that service through Hospiamo that records and these engagement talks that we have, and it's starting a little bit slow. We really haven't announced it yet, but I'm excited about it because the recording, the documenting, these are assets, right?
Yes.
So whenever we or I have the time, we've got like 33 or 35 hours worth of material that is fairly raw, that can be turned into I would love to turn it into like a documentary a little bit, like a movie.
Yeah.
And so you know, we do that for hotel management companies, you know, so we because of that engagement chain and the things that we're trying to help out with the industry. So I'm really excited about it. And so the topic today is interview questions generally. So I've got a lot of favorite ones. You've got a lot of favorite ones.
Yeah.
I have a little cold right now, but that's okay. I have a something that I have worked really super hard on, bro, is being able to understand who the core of a person in an interview when I don't know them. And this could be a current employee also, or a manager. Maybe I'm new to the company and I'm trying to get to know people.
Yeah.
And what I found when I went through my own personal SWOT analysis over the past 5 or 6 years, what I found was that I was acting like somebody else. I was acting like someone that I thought the interviewer or company owner wanted me to be.
Yeah.
I was acting like that person, and which is, I got very good at that.
Yeah.
So I got jobs, and I did well at jobs, and I was very engaged, and but that took like 15 or 20 years for me to realize that I was doing that. And then I was finding my way and navigating my way through these companies and new companies, and I was meanwhile interviewing probably a couple thousand people in the hospitality and hotel industry, right? And during that time that I realized, or I had not yet realized, that I was acting, I was hiring people based on what they were presenting themselves at. And the question that we got in the hotel industry, we have a lot of employees and we got a lot of transactions and interactions, right? More than any other, you know, piece of real estate, call it. Or we have our guests stay over 40 hours on the average. So we got to take care of them. And so you want to make sure that you know who is there working with you on your team. And I'm not going to say every single time, but most of the time I was hiring people that were acting like they thought how I wanted them to act in the interview. They got the job, we're off and running. And then sometimes, honestly, it's about 50% of the time, I'll ask myself a question like, man, I missed that. I was like, something will happen, right? And maybe it's me, but there's something going on with that person. And maybe it's the environment that they're in, right? That I didn't assess. I didn't like, maybe that's not right for them. Maybe it's a perfect person for me and my company, but maybe that environment is not right. So, bro, I've spent, as you know, a lot of time on thinking about things like that. And so
I do too. I think about that all the time. because it's like dating, bro. You go on a first date, everything can look great on paper. Maybe you send a couple texts in advance. We're gonna meet. Okay, great. I'm really excited to know a little bit about this person. But then you go on the first date. It's like, whoa, no way, no way, no how. Like in seconds. Sometimes other times you're like, wow, the first date was great. Let's go a little farther. And then you go a few months down the road, you're like, wow, I thought we were compatible because we were both sort of like pretending what the other person wanted to see. But in reality, when we're our true selves, we're not compatible at all, right? So and the same thing with companies, how do you find that, right? And I've asked the question a lot of times, what interview questions do you ask? How do you interview? How do you really assess cultural fit? Everything you're talking about, all the soft skills side of it. How can you see if a person's going to be a great fit? Just like dating. How do you know if these two people are going to be, joined at the hip and in lockstep?
Right. And before you move in. before you move in together, before you ask the person to get married.
There's no one easy way to go there, bro. So I think about that all the time too. I'm excited that we're going to role play a little bit here. We're going to talk about that because it's
role play
important.
So what I've learned to do over the past 5 or 6 years is to identify a role model, or maybe it's not even a person, but it might be a company that I'm role modeling after if I want to achieve that kind of level. And so some of those role models are actually on my wall. So I got Conan O'Brien, Howard Stern, Norm Macdonald, and what I found is that I probably watch more talk shows than any other genre of TV, and all those reruns. And so a really good role model that I found as it relates to setting a scene for getting to the truth and somebody's core of who they are is Howard Stern.
Mm-hmm.
I have listened to, I know he's controversial and some people like him, but just put that aside for a minute. How this guy interviews has evolved from the 90s where, and this is according to him, he was all about himself. And what he was about, and he was interviewing people, and that would kind of, according to him, turn them off, right? And I was like, wow, I can relate to that. That's how I was in my first 15, 20 years of my career. It was about me until I started to get a little more introspective and thinking like, wow, I need to set a better tone. So it changed a lot when he's on Sirius XM, right? On Sirius, when they added video. So I was able to see him when the person walked in. So he's talking to famous people, right? He's talking to freaking Mick Jagger, right? He's talking to Eddie Vedder. I mean, he's talking to all these, Madonna, like Barbara Streisand. It's like, how do you set an environment that makes them feel comfortable in order to be their true self, and or as much as possible? So I learned a lot by listening and watching him. And so I have we're going to do a little role play. And so
good.
I'm going to kind of be what I've learned to do. And then I'm going to kind of go through what that process was and put some words to it. And then people can learn from it and do all that. So, so you are going to be I'm going to be a hotel management company, vice president, or maybe a regional director of operations, someone that a general manager at a hotel property reports to, or someone at the corporate level. So I'm going to be corporate level. You're going to be a hotel general manager. And you've got your own team, right? So you've got maybe 30 or 40 employees that report to you and you work with, and then you report to me or someone along that chain. And my boss, so in this role play, the president of the company said, Adam, we need better engagement. We're building our own brand. We're very successful, but nobody knows who we are.
Right.
And we want to start with our team members at the property level to know who we are. We want to get to know them. Right. And eventually over time, we'll create our own personal brand, our own corporate brand of hotel management. Not Marriott, not Hilton. We're talking about, the large employers of the United States. And so let's say my company's, we got about 30 hotels. That means we got about 1,000 employees, maybe.
Yeah.
For the perspective, you're one of 30 general managers, and we might be in 7 or 8 different states, maybe in the Southeast, Midwest, or wherever that might be. So you are so my boss said, hey, we got to start this engagement program for our current leaders.
Yep.
And I'll be a current leader, and then maybe we handpicked 10 or 12 other general managers that have been with the company for maybe 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
But I would suggest, and I would advise all management companies to start with the people that have been there for 3 to 6 months as a leader that came in from other companies to come in. And so, and to standardize it. And so, I'll just, and maybe we don't know each other. Maybe you're not my brother. So, excuse me.
Let's do that for the role play. Yeah.
So for the role play, I'll do my best. And maybe we are doing this virtually. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's because we can.
So are you going to start with? So do you just want to say like, all right, let's start, and then you're gonna do your what you do to set the environment and set the stage, right? So
yeah. So maybe we'll start and say, hey, Matt, it's great to meet you. I'm Adam. We've got this meeting scheduled here. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Doing great today.
Great. So you've been with the company for a few months now. Very curious. We're going to spend maybe 10 or 15 minutes to talk. Okay. So just to let you know, this is not going to go on forever. Well, first I see something behind you. What is that? I see, what is that little sign behind you?
Yeah, it says believe. It's a little out of focus here on the video, but I got that book many years ago as a gift, and I had it on my bookshelf. And when I redid my office to make it more Zoom friendly, I just pulled that book off the bookshelf and put it up. And since I put it up several years ago, everyone talked to me about Ted Lasso, and I eventually watched the show. But for the record, I had that up before Ted Lasso, so you copied me.
I don't. I've heard of Ted Lasso and the on Apple TV, right? What you connect with him?
Yeah, I do connect with him. Yeah, he's a good leader, very people oriented, and puts people first, and makes it about the people, not about what the people are doing.
Nice. A lot of people have suggested that to me. I gotta give that a watch. I haven't seen it yet. He's in sports, right?
Yeah, he's in sports. He's he's a American football coach who gets hired to be a European football soccer coach, which is a totally different sport, obviously. And so there's a lot of comedy involved in it, but from a people perspective, it really puts him to the test. How can he lead a team to greatness, or to lead a team to high performance, when you don't even really understand what the team's doing? Right?
Wow.
You don't have a lot of
no, that's intense. That's you just kind of listed off some of your job description.
Cool. Exactly.
It's a big what you do. I mean, so yes. Leading a team, you're at your property, you've got 30 or so employees, you got 5 or so managers reporting to you that you're responsible for. Good for you. So that's pretty cool. That's actually one of the things I always like to ask somebody is like, do they have any inspirational people that are out there that are famous, or like a role model of someone like that? What about I can't remember who the actor is there, but is aside from Ted Lasso, do you have any favorite actors or actresses that you have always been drawn to?
Yeah, for different reasons, different people. So I'll say one actor that I have a lot of respect for is Tom Cruise, because he's older than me and he's still doing all his own stunts for his high action movies, which I think is very impressive. And like his last movie, which I watched recently, it's the first half of his Mission Impossible. But there's a YouTube background. He spent several months to do one stunt, which was incredibly dangerous. He literally jumps on a motorcycle off a cliff into nowhere and then pulls a parachute. And he doesn't have a stuntman do this. It's a very, very dangerous for anybody in the world to do, but he practiced it and rehearsed it with experts over the course of about 3 months to make one scene in the movie be authentic. So anybody who puts that much care and authenticity into their work and into their craft, I have incredible respect for. And the fact that he puts himself there as the stuntman, he doesn't use stunt doubles to do the hard scenes. He's constantly saying, well, I can be better. I can be the one who does this. I don't need to be special treatment because I'm the actor, right? Let me go sit on a couch while the stuntman, gets beat up and bruised or whatever. He says, I want to be in the action. It helps him be more authentic. So he's someone I look up to a lot in his movie making, the way he does it.
It's one of the reasons why my boss, our president, asked me to have these conversations, is because I've been with the company now for 5 years. You're fairly new, and I can tell you that I think that we have at least 15 or 20 Tom Cruises in our company. I really do believe that. And authentic, strong. They want to do their own stunts. They want to do their own thing. Many of them are hotel general managers like yourself. But what we found when we were doing this thinking was that, I can tell you that there's 15 or so Tom Cruises, but what do I do with that? I can, that doesn't create loyalty or engagement. But what we're doing with this conversation that we're having here is I'd like to get to know you. I'm taking notes. We are recording this.
Yeah.
Right. And so, privately, we're not going to be using this for anything outside other than our company. But we're also going to be documenting these for the purpose of sharing your story and your aspirations and the things that you want to do in your life and who you are with others. And we will come together physically in person, but also virtually. And you'll get to know some of these other Tom Cruises, because you are either Tom Cruise now or you will be in the future with and you're different than everybody else. Everybody's unique. So that's a reason why we're doing this. And so maybe I want to ask you about and I'll use the Tom Cruise reference or the Ted Lasso reference.
Sure.
Because I'm excuse me. I'm still curious about that. So it might be currently, but in your previous lifetimes in managing hotels and in your career, have you had any of those Tom Cruise type people that you really looked up to? Maybe you're a supervisor that you've had in the past, and you don't have to name any names, but can you describe that person a little bit for me?
Yeah. One of my mentors, actually, it was somebody who was not my manager at the time, but was within the same company, and we got to know each other through networking, or sort of like I don't know. Somehow we met through people, but this individual had more experience than I did, and was farther down the path from his ability to execute and build high performing teams and things like that he was doing in the hotel management space. And as a result, we started talking, learning. I started learning more from him, asking him a lot of questions. He had respect for me, and me on my trajectory that I was taking my career. I had respect for him and how he had been further down the path, and we had a lot of real conversations. And then he started to bring me into some of his conversations that he had with other peers, other Tom Cruises, right? He had a little collection, a group. And then I remember we were just sitting like in his office from time to time, and we would have real conversations, like what's really not working right now around our organization. How do we make that better? Why do we think something's in the way? Is it a person? Is it a process? Is it a system? What are we lacking? So we had the real authentic conversations, even though there was no direct management reporting relationship there. There was a lot of learning, a lot of growth, and really beneficial to all of us.
Yeah. So you were you didn't report to that person. He didn't report to you, and so you were maybe more open with that person. He was with you, and
yes.
But there was that mutual respect, it sounds like.
Yes.
That's great. Good. One of my favorite questions to ask, and I'll segue over to this topic, and it is for any industry, but it does relate to hotels. And so, and I don't think you need a calculator, but if you do need one, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the question is, if you're an owner of something, would you rather own 100% of $1 million, or would you rather own 1% of $100 million? Which of those scenarios, so 100% of $1 million or 1% of $100 million, which environment would you like to be in if you were either a manager or an owner in that?
Manager, owner, I'd definitely rather be the 1%.
1%. Why? Why did you lean? Yeah.
Same value on the surface today, but the 1% implies that I'm working with another 99% of people who are part of the equation, and we all have a vested interest. It's a team sport, not an individual sport. So we all have a vested interest in growing and strengthening, our team, our company, our organization, etc. So I'd rather be in a team sport than an individual sport, and that's why I chose that.
Good. Yeah. Since you've been with our company, how have you? How did you feel our, call it, onboarding was, like your first month of working here? And please feel free, this is confidential. This is between you and me. But if you can give it a grade about and maybe compare it to your previous onboarding experiences and coming into a new environment, even though the hotel brand might not be new to you. But how did we do? How did we do for your first month as a company?
Yeah, I think it was pretty good. I wouldn't say it was the best experience that I've had from my career. I've been around for a little while. I give it more of like a B or B minus, to be direct. Now the average companies out there, I'd probably give more like a C too. Some of the experience that I've had was more of an A plus, but that so what was done well here is the fact that there was a I forget if it's called a buddy program or an onboarding buddy, whatever it was called here, but that was very helpful to me because it was somebody who was, again, outside of the reporting relationship, who I could bounce things off, like, hey, where's this, where's that, I got to fill out this form, I don't know what to do. And a lot of those things that you're clueless about when you're a new employee somewhere, to have someone who's not your manager, not your assistant or whatever, do assist you and help you with some of that. So that was done very well here. And that was good. I think there was also a lot of good enthusiasm and welcoming of the people to me. Like when I got here, there was just, everybody was super nice, and the team was already well built with good people.
Your team at the property?
My team at the property.
Okay.
So therefore, it was a soft place to land, right? It's a softer landing than coming in. It's like, wow, this thing's a mess. I got to go do all this stuff. It's going to be a lot of work. So because the team was already built in a very good place, it allowed me to come in and say, okay, how do we make the team better? There weren't any major fire alarms going on. So that was another piece of the good. Something that could have been done better is a more
excuse me.
I think maybe, I don't know if formal is the right word, but a better way to fully immerse me quickly into all aspects of my role. So what I mean by that is, number one, meet everybody. What are all the processes? And it's almost like going down the rabbit hole, sort of like if you picture an iceberg. Start at the top, like, okay, this is the property, here's your core team, right? But then go a little bit level deeper, like, all right, I'm going to spend 2 hours with each of my key people, right? First day or first week or whatever. I want to learn from the engineer, like, what are the main things about the property, what's working, what's not working, and just to have that real conversation eyeball to eyeball instead of sort of the way it went here. It was a lot. It took a long time to get into the real meat of the matter, and I'm skilled and experienced. I'm ready to go. I don't need to take my time getting in. This is an operating hotel, right? We don't need to slow roll me coming into my role. We should be able to drop me in and go. So I felt that could have been done in a faster, more efficient way.
How was it in the first couple weeks of understanding how corporate works, like operations, finance, human resources, building, facilities? Did you get to know anyone from the corporate level? I mean, you're in Boston, but we're based in Atlanta.
Yep.
And so was there a process for that? Did you get to know, or did you jump right into the property level?
I was more in the property level. I did get a great experience from Sally, and I forget her last name, but she was very helpful at the corporate to really just help me through all the onboarding steps. There were a lot of steps to do. Yep. The paperwork, the forms, processes, key people I had to like meet with and onboard with. So she was excellent in befriending me and helping me sort of guide me through that process. Other than that, though, I felt pretty disconnected from the ethos of the environment of the corporate side, because I was in a different physical environment, right? Different physical location geographically, and so it was tough for me to feel connected to the people, to the energy. I wasn't sitting at the coffee cooler having a conversation in the same environment as the people in the corporate office. So it was tough for me to connect with the corporate office, to feel connected.
Good. Yeah, because just to open up with you a little bit, what we found is that we have I'm at the corporate office and you're at the property level, and we have a culture at the corporate level. I do a lot of traveling back and forth, and the feedback that I offered the company when they were doing their own interviewing and engagement with me. And again, like you said, maybe it's a positive or negative thing. I said it's a different culture here at the corporate office than it is at the property level. There are some properties, we've got 30 hotels, and each of them have their own culture. And maybe 10 or 12 of them are connected to the culture that we have. And then, 10, 12, 15, 18, they just have their own culture, and they're not interconnected together, and they're not connected to the corporate office. And so that was some of the feedback that I offered, and I was not the only one to offer that feedback. And so what you're describing is very real and something that we've identified. And so this is very helpful for us to improve on our processes, especially. That's why I asked you about that first month, because that's really, really important. Just like, as you said, a new relationship or going on a date with somebody.
Yeah.
We're not going to get to know you very well if we don't connect with you, or just send you some reports about this is what you do here and there. So that's great. So I will we can end it up here. I'm going to be traveling to your property more often. I'm sorry that we haven't met in person yet. I've been with the company 5 years. You're new. I really think that we should have met before, because I do have a role that's part of the corporate, and I would love to interact with you and get to know you better, and also get to know your team members, and to do all that. But I would say that it seemed like you were being very honest with me, and I want to just recognize that and appreciate that. I can tell you that we're a great company. I believe that we are, but I want you to experience it for yourself. And you don't have to believe me. We are really focused on you being able to do your job, but also to do it around people that you care about, and to know that the company and we do have a vested interest in you for the future. So it's all about. I think that I'll end here by saying that you already have our trust, but it's my job and the company's job to earn your trust every single day. Right. So we might lose it tomorrow. We might do something we might make an error in judgment, or say the wrong thing, or do the wrong thing. And then the next day we got to earn that trust back with you. So that's our responsibility. And I want to commit to you that that's what we strive to do.
Thank you. I appreciate
but you already have yours. And so a very belated welcome to the company, but I look forward to meeting you in person.
Sounds great. Thank you. I appreciate it. Glad we could have this conversation.
Hey, all right. So that was a good role model, role play.
Time. Break character. Click. End scene.
All right. So we can start to finish up, but I will go through my process that I've been trying to not perfect, but I've been trying to hold myself accountable and responsible for going through this process.
I like what you did. I like what you did. I got a sense for it as we were in it. And I was like, oh, this is really, I get how this type of process would work for Howard Stern, and it would work for conversations like this, would work for interviews. And it works well remotely too, right? So we're virtual. So anyway, go ahead, share.
It is the reason why I was studying, and I really did study these people, and that is the fact that Howard Stern is based in New York City, right? And he has people that come to him, and they're all around the world. Yeah. Very similar to Conan O'Brien or David Letterman and all that. But it is in hotel management, it's the number one challenge that we have every single day, and that is the company is probably based in a place like Atlanta or a larger city, sometimes not larger city, but right. That's where all the processes and systems are, and that's where the paychecks are, cut, and yeah. And the average hotel management company, third-party hotel management company, is independent, and they're hired by owners to manage the hotels, and their hotels might be in 7 different states. Yeah. When I was with Hersha, I was responsible for over 20 hotels in my region. I lived in New Jersey. The company was based in both Philadelphia and Harrisburg, or Philly. And my region was the Mid-Atlantic region, and it stretched from actually it grew all the way down to Atlanta, but it was mostly between DC and New Jersey. And then some of my counterparts were in charge of New England. Some of it was in charge of New York City. Someone had a central region. Yeah. And, I learned a lot from that, of course. And it was
tough to connect all that together into a
It's really, really hard. Yeah. But it does come down to the engagement. I think, and the feedback that I got after a few years of working there, it was very positive feedback. I think I did a good job. My supervisors, Mike Murray was just very supportive of me, and he told me from the start, he goes, "I want you to be the CEO of your region," and he backed that up. And so so thanks, Mike, for that. I learned a lot from him during that time, but I did a pretty good job. And I think the reason why I did say above average was I was who I am, which is deeply engaged, very curious, very hands-on. Yeah. This is during the recession, before, during, and after the Great Recession of 2008, 9, and 10, right? Yeah. So that was a great time for me to learn, but also that was not a time for someone to be hands-off, and a lot of people found themselves feeling maybe out of the loop because they weren't as hands-on. So my boss, or the guy who hired me, is Mark D. Piazza, and I remember in the initial interview, he mentioned that, and he said, "You seem like a hands-on guy," or something like that, right? Yeah. And I said, I am. He goes, "I think that's what we need here. We need someone that's going to be like living and breathing with the people at the property level, because Mark was based in one area and he wasn't able to travel all around." So and a lot of the interviewing conversation was born from that. So the process was
explain the beginning of it, like how you welcome me, you looked at the background, you're looking for something to connect to, you wanted to have me share something that I was comfortable sharing about in order to start to make a connection.
So the first thing I do, if it's virtual, I took advantage of the fact that you have a real background there. So I looked behind you when I first saw you, and I saw the word believe up there, and I was like, well, that's pretty cool. Tell me more about that. Okay, so just that was very casual way to welcome you into, I mean, it's your environment, you're already comfortable, but it shows you that this is not something that you need to be buttoned up for. I'm curious about you naturally. So step number one is usually ask them, bro, you could tell I avoided that cliche question of like, tell me about yourself. I don't think that that's a very helpful thing for me. It hasn't worked that well being asked of me, and it hasn't worked that well of me asking that of others. And so it's just be very specific, because just by me asking you about that sign, and that book you told me about yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
You told me about yourself, and it flowed into, it was actually it's usually one of my first questions, which has nothing to do with any business. And that is the question about actors or movies that you're watching right now that have kind of, do you do Netflix? We could talk about that. Do you know, I don't do Netflix. I do Hulu. Oh, what's anything good that I should think about watching? It's just what you're doing is what I'm doing is trying to create an environment of trust with someone that I don't know yet.
Yeah.
And even if I do know the person, but, and then sometimes that first part of establishing trust goes a very long time, because some people, and it's very natural, they have walls.
Yeah.
They have very thick walls around them, and you can tell. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not right for the company. It doesn't mean that they're not. It's just that maybe they've been hurt in the past. Maybe they don't like interviewing. Maybe they're shy and they're just very introverted and they're very uncomfortable not knowing like who I am. That's totally cool. So
maybe they're less self-aware as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so one thing I committed to doing was I don't rush to the next step until I really feel that I've done a good job at establishing an environment that you're comfortable with, because and sometimes it never happens, bro. Sometimes it's just there's probably a couple hundred people out there that can say like, man, when Adam interviewed me, all we talked about was just like what I was up to and like my family, or like, I remember he was telling me about his, some hotels he used to work at, but it was really just a get to know you thing. It was very conversational. We didn't talk about the hotel business at all. That's because I did not get past that part of getting them comfortable. And so not guaranteed, but as I got older and more experienced in this, I would set up a second interview. And then I would just remind them of, the conversation that we had, but then I would transition into the more specific questions, maybe about their career and experiences and former bosses and things. So once I felt comfortable, I'd ask you about Believe. You told me about Ted Lasso. You told me about Tom Cruise, and that I felt really good about. It was a very genuine type of an answer, because the words that you used. So I was taking notes here, and one thing I didn't do that I should have done, I always like doing, I let them know that I asked them for their permission if I take notes.
That's a good point.
Virtually, it's really important, because when I take notes, I do this, and you see the top of my head, you don't see me looking at you. So I that can sometimes be distracting. So a lot of times if it's virtual, I will say like, hey, are you cool with me taking some notes? And if and then I'll say, if I do take notes, you're gonna see me looking down. I just want to let you know that that's what I'm doing. I'm not distracted. I'm listening to you.
I like that.
Yeah. So that also builds.
Make a note of that too.
So what I established there with I strived to create an environment of trust and somewhat comfort between us.
Yep.
And now once I feel comfortable that you're in that environment, I can start to ask some baselining questions. And so I am understanding your baseline, right? Because now you're comfortable. You're not giving me any BS about trying to like, I really want this job, so I'm going to be this kind of person, kind of a thing. And so when I was at that's when I asked you about your former supervisors or someone that you experienced, and you mentioned your mentor.
Yeah.
I was also taking notes in there because I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, but I've kind of live in that social psychology world, and I've read a lot of those books. And so what that is, what these experts say, when you describe someone that you look up to and someone that provided you with something, some sort of value, like a mentor or a supervisor, you're actually telling me a little bit about who you are.
Yeah.
And you're also telling me how you like to be treated.
Yeah.
Because you use the word respect about 6 or 7 times.
Yeah.
And I was writing that down. I was writing down those key words. And so you give respect, but you also, it gave me confidence to know that you're a confident person and that you are going to expect that in return.
Yeah.
Right. And if we're a company and you use that word a lot and you're describing someone that you've really enjoyed in your life, we have to make sure that my notes are on you is going to be like, hey, listen, Matt, we need to create some mechanisms around making sure that he knows that we respect him and maybe offer some recognition for the work that he does, because this guy's got a career and he gives a lot of respect. We got to make sure that we give that back. Right.
I like that.
So that was a good one.
These are deep things that you're sharing. I think it's amazing. And I think this is one recorded episode that we're doing here, but there's a lot more that we can go deeper in future episodes, because there's just a lot to it. I mean, you have your guidelines. You've obviously done it a lot of times. So you've developed your own way to navigate through that. All right, am I done with phase 1? I'm ready to go to phase 2, phase 3, whatever the stages of it. So you're an expert at it because you've done it for a while, is my point. This is for our audience. This is cracking the surface of ways to make interviews and conversations be more effective. Right. This is the beginning.
That's what going back to, excuse me, going back to what we were talking about as far as that system, right, and of connecting and engaging.
Yes.
To me, it is simple, but that's what we do for hotel companies. We install this system that actually connects. It goes beyond their company and their properties. It extends through to the ownership groups, because there's this engagement chain with the hotel industry where you have owners of the real estate, you have the management company that they hire to operate their hotels, and then you got each property here. And so you can see a chain link right here, and then you got 30 chains over here.
Yeah.
And so the system that we have, and I'm selling a little bit, but we've developed a methodology and a system in order to strengthen those chains, and incorporating you and our strategic partnership with Agile Game Changers. And that is that constant feedback loop, high frequency recording, documenting, and then taking some action on it. And so, I'm excited about it. And it's a lot of it's based on that, bro. And it's, so, to recap, I guess I establish an environment, start to build an environment of trust.
Yeah.
And do not go to that second phase until you feel comfortable knowing that person is comfortable, and then start asking some baseline standardized questions. And so I have asked these questions hundreds of times.
Yeah.
And the only issue with me doing that over the years was the fact that I honestly didn't stay at companies for very long.
Yeah.
And I've been on my own here for about 5 or 6 years, but before that, I kind of jumped around a little bit. Right. So, a year here, a few years here. So it was, looking back, I wish I was, I've got some contemporaries and some peers that have been with the same company for 30 years, and it's like, dude, you got the process down. Like there's, it's a, tried and true. I would say it works for me. And it's a lot of, you've taught me the importance of documenting, because we're both inspired by Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. And so,
document, don't create. Document your journey. Document what you're doing. Don't try to make something up to please your audience. Document an authentic situation.
Yeah. And that's very real. And so, and because it's shareable, especially these videos that we're doing, we got all these hours of conversations with some amazing people who move, right? And so this is going to be turned into something. We're going to do something with it, right? We're going to make maybe a documentary or something like that. And we're going to be doing the same with many other companies, because it is, when TikTok came out, and, even Facebook, a lot of, as we call social media, which I'm not even calling it social media anymore. I just think it's the current state of the internet. I just think it's, it's just media. It's opened up the opportunity for people that we might call the gig economy, but we also call it, which I like, personal branding. Somebody can have their own personal brand. And if you can have your own personal brand and you're a hotel general manager, you can have your own personal brand. You can also have your own personal network.
Yeah.
And we as a company can help you develop that network with the buddy system. I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
An onboarding buddy, a friend that you can call, that you're not going to be reporting to.
Yeah.
And that can be, we can actually maybe pay that person a little bit more to spend time with you. And that's great for their career and great for their environment and great for their branding and career and network.
Yeah.
And so, I see it doing that. So thanks for going through all that. And
that was good. Do you want me to share a couple questions that I like?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you what's something, excuse me.
I'll share a couple, and we don't have to go into them in detail. One of them is one that I don't think anyone in our audience would expect, but the one that you might expect, and you hit on this, you hit on it in a very nuanced way, the way you did it, which I liked. A lot of times I just ask people point blank, hey, what are you most passionate about when it comes to your work? That's an open-ended question that I ask people. And if it's a Scrum Master, what are you most passionate about in your role as a Scrum Master? That's an open-ended one, because I want to listen. Again, you and I are both very good active listeners, and to be a really good interviewer, or interviewee, you really want to be a good active listener. It's a really key skill. So no matter what they say, I don't care what their answer is, but I can start to hear, are they more about people? Are they about process? Are they about data? Like, what floats their boat? What gets them going? And a lot of times I'll piggyback. So when you're first starting with a company, and or you've been there for 6 months or so, what do you find gets you out of bed in the morning? Like, what do you get you most motivated to go do for your work? What gets you most excited? And so I ask that question often a little bit later in the interview, because again, I want to hear, is it consistent? Like, do they say, like, I just love helping people grow? And then later on, they're like, oh, I love helping my team grow. And I'm a Scrum Master, I get to do this. And I'm just all about how can we make our team, just be more performant. I'm listening for the little things where we can help make the team better. Right. And then maybe I'll say something about, like, well, were you ever in sports growing up? Do you play any sports, any team sports that you do? How does that apply to, like, what you do there and stuff? So I'll get into it, because everyone has different motivations, and I want to really understand. Because for me, and this I think is different than a lot of companies out there, and a lot of people who interview, is and I'm going to bring this model back, my own version of it. Anyway, what I'm getting at is, I bet more on the potential for somebody to, and this is what I want to establish in the interview, how can I find out the potential for this person to come in, fit well, and impact positive change going forward? So it's a future lens. The past lens is their experience, it's their resume, it's all the stuff, it's all the stories, it's all their prepared stuff that they want to share, that most interviewers ask. Tell me about yourself. And it's a canned response, right? What was some problem that you had and how'd you overcome it? Canned response, right? All that stuff, that doesn't help me really understand their potential to drop in. Because I don't care if you have a college degree, 8 college degrees, PhD, what you did in the past is not going to necessarily help you in this new environment, because you're not fully prepared for where you're going to come. The company or the team that you're coming into, it's a new environment, right? Just look at like this, you know, the military gets trained to be able to handle anything. You're a Navy SEAL, you get a lot of training, but you don't get training in the exact scenario that's going to happen because you don't know what's going to happen. And it's the same thing when someone comes into a company. So my point is I don't get as hung up on their past and having them explain their past, other than having them do it in a way that like, hey, I noticed that you did this, this, and this. When you come here, if you see this type of scenario, how would you handle it? Okay, when you're onboarding, you know, in the first 30, 60, 90 days, and your team's been together for a little while now. They have varied levels of agile experience, but they've been together for about a year plus. Most of them have worked together. You're going to be the new person. You're coming as a scrum master, the team coach, the team, you know, the scrum lead for the team. You know, so you're going to be the new person. So what's going through your head when you first start, first 30, 60, 90 days? What do you do to start to get involved with that team, to earn their trust and respect, and to start to figure out where they're at and how you can help move them forward? So I ask a question like that is, again, open-ended, because I don't care about their past, bro. I care about when they show up on day one, they get the offer, they come in on day one, and now they're going to be interacting with people, real people in a team. I want to hear them role play that. Like, what are they doing? And I'm listening for, are they going to, like, if they said, hey, I'm passionate about developing people, or I'm passionate about improving process, I'm listening for how that passion is translating into their role play of the actions that they're going to take when they first start. Like, if they say they're passionate about people, I'm listening for that first 30, 60, 90 days. How are they developing relationships with the people? How are they getting to know people, right? And if they say people as the passion part, and then they say process for what they're doing, well, I look at the data the team's doing, blah, blah. I'm like, well, something's wrong here, right? Like, why did they say they love talking about people, they love interacting with people, but now they're focusing on data. They're trying to give me some answer that they think I might want to hear. So then I have to dig in deeper, right? So again, establishing the trust, having a real conversation, going through that. And the last piece I'll say, and this is interesting, this is just in the last year, and this is, I do a lot of interviewing for a lot of people at all different levels, different leadership levels in various corporate companies. And one of the leaders who I co-interviewed with, she told me this as her pet peeve, and I said, wow, it's really interesting. So here's the question that you ask. Interview's mostly done, about 5 or 10 minutes left, maybe 5 or 8 minutes left. You say, hey, listen, you know, thank you very much for all your answers. You know, really appreciate that. Want to give you a few minutes to ask us some questions. You know, if you were to get the offer, you get started here. I'm sure you got a lot of questions. You know, what questions do you have for us?
Yeah.
So what questions do you have for us in a panel interview, or what questions do you have for me, has become one of my favorite questions, because I have this woman this leader who I co-interviewed with. She was in an interview where she asked that question, and the person said, "Oh, I don't have any questions." And that person was going to get the offer, and because of that response, that person went away. And
that's great learning.
Right there, like you mentioned curiosity a number of times when you were sharing with our role play, and how important that is. If someone is being interviewed and they're not curious to understand what's going to happen if they get the offer and when they start, what's going well with the company, what's not going well. Plus, the people that you and I interview, bro, are very, if they get hired, are very influential people with a lot of other people, right? So they're coming in as a team lead or a hotel general manager or whatever, but they're not just sitting in an office in a cube by themselves where they don't interact with people. These are highly influential people when they come in. So they need to be curious. They need to be asking a lot of questions. They need to be thinking, wow, if I get this job, you know, what's going really well with I'm going to be in charge. I'm going to be working with this team as Scrum Master or as hotel general manager, right? You know, what's going on? They have to have the ability to to play with that and be curious about it. So anyway, that's the question most people wouldn't expect. Is one of my favorite interview questions, but it's become one of my favorite ones because after interviews are two ways, right? Both people are interviewing each other. Is there a fit from the employee side to this side? Is there a fit from the company to the employee side? You got to have a mutual fit. And if the interview goes really well and then the person doesn't ask any questions, it's like, wait a second here. That means they're either not interested. It's like being on a first date and the person doesn't have any questions for you, isn't curious about your background or who you are or what you like to do.
Yeah.
Well, they're obviously not interested in me or they're not the right fit. But either way, we're not going anywhere after this.
It's a two-way street.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
So I
like what you said there, because the approach to in the industry of hotels, right? Everyone will agree with me, whether or not they admit it publicly, but we do a horrible job at onboarding. That's why, just meaning I'm comparing it to other industries and experiences that I had 25, 30 years ago, great experiences being onboarded.
Onboarding within the property or within the management ownership or everything?
So there's 60,000 hotels in the U.S. There's hundreds of third-party hotel management companies, independent, meaning like the first time that you come on as an employee, I think the corporate offices generally do an excellent job.
Yeah.
So back to that role play example, when you're based in Atlanta, and you're a vice president or regional revenue manager, or maybe you're a virtual person or remote, there's established
management company.
You're at the management corporate level.
Yeah.
What we do a horrible job at is the first 2 to 4 weeks even of
property
maybe a hotel general manager, specifically that role.
Yeah.
We miss it more often than not. And that is what drives, it's a core driver to the disengagement of what we're experiencing today.
Yeah, that's good.
And then, the other thing that we don't do very good at, we don't do even frequently, is having what you would call a postmortem.
Yeah.
Like, we just hired this person and they left within 6 months. What's up with that?
Yeah.
The conversations at the corporate level are like, it just wasn't a good fit, or we couldn't compete with that higher salary. What do you want us to do? It's like, no, go deeper.
Yeah.
There's a reason why you hired the person. There's a reason why they left.
Yeah.
And you can talk about it and you can document it and you can become better constantly with that open conversation. And so, so I like the question, if the person already works for you, right? And like you in that role playing, I love asking the question is, what could we have done better?
Yeah.
And about, if I did not do a good job at establishing your trust in an environment, you know what the answer always is? Nothing. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I loved it. I'm totally here. And I'm like, you know what? That's on me. I didn't do a good job because that's bullshit.
Yeah.
There's just like the answer of I don't have any questions.
Yeah.
A+. I'm like, all right, well, we got to do something different.
Yeah.
Because this person's not comfortable with me. Right. He's not comfortable with the company, thinks that everything's wonderful, or she or whatever. Yeah. And so your answer was perfect, and I don't always get that answer, but it does allow me to put the mirror onto myself and my company.
Yeah. And
what I do with that information is critically important to say, hey, to my boss, like, he rated us a C-, and here's why.
Yep.
And then when we do this consistently with the same questions throughout the organization, and everybody rates you a C- or a D+ or a B, it doesn't matter if 1 or 2 rate you an A+. That tells you nothing. It tells you, and if they all have that same thing and be like, you know what, I loved the buddy system, great, but like you said in your example, I don't really know anyone at the corporate office.
Yeah.
I know my team.
Make that better, right?
Yeah. How do you make that better? So, yeah, I like the idea of asking standardized questions like that. And there's my first management job at Foxwoods. They put me through this behavioral interviewing class, and I got some certificate. And the gist of behavioral interviewing, it's not controversial, but people like it or don't like it. But really, it is. It says past behaviors help predict future performance.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Yeah.
And it's it on the opposite side, and I've been trained in other ways too, which is certificates or formal education or resume predicts future performance. And it's not. It's like if we are going to think alike and start to feel, like you said, with the passions are about feelings, and it drives your thinking, and that drives your choices, and that drives your environment that you're in.
Yep.
And I think that I do really think that hotels are people, companies are people, people are people. Everyone's got different personalities. Everyone has different passions, but generally, and everybody's flawed. That's the other thing. Everyone has flaws. Yeah. Every company does. Nobody's perfect. No one's going to be perfect. And if those walls that are up between people are also up around companies, and they don't want to, they think that they have to be perfect in order to get whatever they've been getting. And just not like that. I think that everyone's raw and everyone's imperfect in their own ways. The question is, as Robin Williams says to Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting, is it doesn't matter if she's perfect. It doesn't matter if you're perfect. What the question is whether or not you're perfect together.
Yeah, exactly.
And that just means it's going to last longer. It doesn't mean that you're actually perfect together.
Yeah,
it just means that it's going to be a good experience, and then it becomes about mutual respect and what do I got to do for you. And yeah, it's a fun thing. And this, as we call interview questions, interview. It's between two people. You interview me, I'm interviewing you. And what you were saying about asking somebody's passions, I love it when they ask me the same question, like, what are yours?
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I absolutely love that.
Get
like,
to know you. And they're like, oh,
yeah,
who is
I
this
love
person?
that.
Yeah.
That means they're comfortable. And I'm like, oh man, cool. I'll tell you about my passions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think
that means I'm doing a good job at creating that.
What we're getting at here, bro, and I think is really important. I don't know how to say it other than you and I are passionate about the human to human connection and about the human curiosity of other humans, right? And I say human because everything else that is outside the scope of what we just talked about is all the stuff that AI can play in, right? Resumes can be rebuilt by AI. You don't know what's real, what's not real. The stories and the way you have canned responses to interview questions, that can all be prepped, rehearsed, and acted. But when we take away all that and we are asking someone eyeball to eyeball, what are you passionate about? How are you going to operate the first month or two that you're here? Walk me through what you're going to be thinking about when you wake up in the morning, you come to work. That answer is real, whatever they say, right? And that's going to be because it's a human to human conversation, right? And it could go any direction, right? That's what's important about the interviewing that we're getting into. In other words, the standardized questions that you and I are talking about are open-ended questions to get to the human inside the person.
Yeah, that's good, which is, the purpose of a resume is not to get a job, it's to get an interview. The purpose of the interview is to hopefully get a job offer.
Yeah.
And then you hopefully start work, right? And so
but you got to interview with good questions that really can allow both parties, the interviewer and the interviewee, to really assess how much of a connection, like how good of a fit are we, like you said, Robin Williams, Doesn't matter about great company, great candidate. Yep. What matters is, are they great together? Just like you said, that's what matters.
That is all that matters, right? Nobody does anything alone. As much as our favorite introverts might be enjoy their time alone, I've become a little bit more introverted as I got older.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean I don't like to be around people. Everyone needs each other, and everyone's connected to each other. And so, well, that's a good way to end it up here, bro.
Yeah, I like it.
Good. Next week, I think we're going to have it set up. Is going to be all about the youth. Nice. I've got a few people that are in their early 20s and teens that I've been mentoring with Hospiamo and our nonprofit HI3, and I've been doing all these interviews with them, and they've been doing interviews with me and getting to know each other and awesome. Helping each other. And so another thing so if you think about the two things that we haven't done well in our industry, the hotel industry, is that first 2 or 3 weeks of somebody's employment, connecting them to your hotel management brand, your corporate culture. But it's also communicating and engaging the younger people, because their perceptions of our industry is not what the reality is.
Right.
And so, that's what we're all about. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And
that's awesome.
Next week. And I hope to have somebody live with us that we can talk to about what he's up to. So we will make that happen. So we did it again, bro. I love you. I love everybody. Thanks for watching. You know how to get a hold of us if you need us. And
33 and 23.
Nice. I love it. We'll see you in 24.
We'll see you in 24. See you next year.
See you next year.